Imagine waking up tomorrow with a completely different relationship to money. Picture bills arriving and feeling calm instead of anxious. Visualize opportunities flowing to you naturally, as if the universe has suddenly decided to make your financial dreams its top priority. This isn't fantasy. It's exactly what happened to a man in Tokyo who went from sleeping in his car to running a multi-million-dollar company, a woman in Brazil who transformed her life from 3 months behind on rent to complete financial freedom, and a college student in Manchester who couldn't afford textbooks but now travels the world in luxury. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly attract wealth while others struggle despite working twice as hard? What if I told you the difference between financial struggle and abundance isn't about how many hours you work or even your education level, but something much simpler that fits right in your pocket? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. What connects these seemingly unrelated success stories? It wasn't their backgrounds, connections, or even extraordinary talent. It was 3 specific objects they began carrying with them daily. I know this sounds unconventional, perhaps even a bit mystical, but stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely transform how you understand the mechanics of wealth creation. Florence Scovel Shinn, one of the pioneers of modern prosperity consciousness, taught us that your word is your wand. But what if certain physical objects could also become powerful wands that manifest your financial desires? What if the ancient wisdom traditions actually understood something about energy and manifestation that our modern logical minds have forgotten? Has this ever happened to you? You set financial goals, create vision boards, repeat affirmations, yet something still feels blocked? The truth is, you don't have a money problem. You have an energy problem. And these 3 simple objects I'm about to reveal work directly with your energy field and subconscious programming in ways that logical mind techniques simply cannot. Shinn often said that success leaves clues, and when we see consistent patterns in others' success stories, we'd be wise to follow similar paths. That's exactly what we're doing today, uncovering a pattern of prosperity that connects people across cultures, backgrounds, and starting points. 10 years ago, I couldn't even afford to buy my friends coffee without feeling shame. I would literally avoid social situations because my bank account was so embarrassing. Today, my financial reality is completely different, and it had nothing to do with working harder. Something shifted at the energetic level, beginning with a simple practice that I'm about to share with you. Join our Prosperity Consciousness community by subscribing right now. Every video is designed to help you break free from financial limitations and step into the abundance that's already yours. The transformation I experienced wasn't random or accidental. It came after years of studying both modern quantum physics and ancient prosperity teachings from cultures all around the world. What fascinated me was discovering the same principles appearing again and again across vastly different traditions, from Egyptian hieroglyphs to Vedic texts to indigenous shamanic practices. These cultures, separated by thousands of miles and centuries of time, all understood a hidden truth about the relationship between physical objects, energy fields, and material abundance. Let me share something revealing about my journey. Before my financial breakthrough, I was doing everything society told me would work. I had vision boards plastered all over my apartment. I recited affirmations religiously every morning. I read every business book I could find. I networked. I hustled. I worked 80-hour weeks. And yet, my bank account remained stubbornly empty. The revelation came when I realized I was approaching the problem from entirely the wrong angle. Our modern mindset conditions us to believe that financial success comes exclusively through external actions. Work harder, network more, optimize your LinkedIn profile, perfect your resume. But what if the most profound impact on your prosperity comes from something much more subtle? What if the real journey to abundance begins at the energetic level? Florence Scovel Shinn understood this decades before quantum physics confirmed it. She taught that money itself is merely a symbol, a physical representation of the energy of exchange. When your energy is blocked around receiving, no amount of hard work can override that fundamental misalignment. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You can pour endless water into it, but it will never stay full. The most significant revelation in my life was understanding that my relationship with money wasn't logical. It was energetic. My subconscious carried programming from childhood, from my parents' attitudes about wealth, from subtle messages in society that wealthy people must be somehow unethical or that money is scarce and hard to obtain. These weren't conscious thoughts I was having. They were energetic imprints affecting my decisions behind the scenes, invisibly sabotaging my efforts. When I finally understood I didn't have a money problem but an energy problem, everything shifted. The 3 objects I'm about to share with you became powerful tools in that transformation. They work because they bypass the logical mind and speak directly to the subconscious, where your true financial programming resides. They create what psychologists call pattern interrupts, breaking the automatic thoughts and behaviors that have been keeping you financially stuck. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic and reveal exactly why these specific objects are so powerful at reprogramming your subconscious relationship with money. There's fascinating research on how physical symbols can create profound neurological shifts in our brains, activating what scientists call the reticular activating system, essentially training your brain to notice opportunities that were always there but previously invisible to you because of your energetic blocks. Drop a comment below that says energy shift if you're ready to transform your financial reality at this fundamental level. The simple act of declaring, "I'm ready," might seem trivial, but this declaration actually triggers a profound shift in your energetic frequency. When you publicly commit to transformation, even through something as simple as typing those words in a comment, you're signaling to your subconscious mind that you're open to receiving. This creates what psychologists call a cognitive opening, a moment when your mind becomes receptive to new paradigms and possibilities. Florence Shinn, whose work I've studied extensively, often emphasized that real change begins with these small but meaningful commitments. He understood that the journey toward abundance requires more than passive consumption of information. It requires active participation. By commenting, you're not just engaging with this video, you're engaging with your own transformation journey. You're declaring to the universe that you're stepping into a new identity, one that's aligned with prosperity consciousness rather than scarcity thinking. Let me be clear about something that makes this channel different from others in this space. I'm not here to offer you empty platitudes or vague feel-good statements about positivity. Those have their place, but they rarely lead to lasting financial transformation. What I'm sharing are the actual mechanics, the behind-the-scenes operations of how reality responds to your energetic signature. These aren't theories or wishful thinking. They're practical principles based on quantum physics, neuroscience, and ancient wisdom traditions that have been tested and verified across thousands of years and countless cultures. When I discovered these principles, they literally rewired my reality. Doors began opening that I didn't even know existed. People appeared in my life carrying exactly the opportunities I needed. Ideas would download into my consciousness in the shower or while driving. Ideas that would later become million-dollar ventures. This wasn't coincidence or luck. It was the direct result of applying these specific principles to manipulate the fabric of reality in my favor. The most powerful revelation was understanding that reality isn't fixed or solid. It's responsive and malleable. It responds not to your conscious wishes or even your actions, but to your energetic frequency. And that frequency is determined largely by your subconscious programming around wealth. This is why 2 people can take identical actions but get completely different results. The actions aren't the primary determining factor. The energy behind those actions is. I've dedicated this channel to cutting through the noise and sharing only what actually works. the concrete manifestation techniques that create measurable results in your bank account. Not someday, not eventually, but starting immediately. The three objects we're exploring today represent one of the most powerful of these techniques because they work directly with the subconscious mind where all true transformation begins. Type frequency shift in the comments if you're beginning to see how your energy, not your actions, determines your financial reality. What makes this approach so powerful is that it doesn't require you to choose between science and spirituality. It seamlessly integrates both. Modern neuroscience has revealed what mystics and spiritual teachers like Florence Scovel Shinn understood intuitively, that our brains are incredibly receptive to symbolic language. When quantum physicists talk about the observer effect, how the mere act of observation changes the behavior of particles, they're describing the same phenomenon that ancient wisdom traditions called manifestation. This intersection of cutting-edge science and timeless wisdom creates a blueprint for transformation that works regardless of your background or belief system. The physical objects I'm about to share with you work on multiple levels simultaneously, neurologically rewiring your brain's pathways, energetically shifting your vibrational frequency, and symbolically communicating with your subconscious mind in a language it deeply understands. Consider Pavlov's famous conditioning experiments. Most people know about the dogs that salivated when hearing a bell, but few know about his later, more revealing work. Pavlov conducted experiments with worms in two separate boxes. In one box, worms were fed normally. In the other, worms that climbed to the upper branches were pricked with a pin, causing pain. As you'd expect, these worms quickly learned to stay at the bottom of the box. Subscribe to continue this transformation journey with me. I share powerful techniques that bridge ancient wisdom and modern science to completely reprogram your relationship with money. Here's the fascinating part that reveals the hidden truth about your financial struggles. After 4 generations of conditioning, Pavlov stopped pricking the worms. Yet even though these new worms had never experienced the pain themselves, they refused to climb to the upper branches where the freshest food was available. They were genetically programmed to stay at the bottom. This is precisely what's happening with you and money. You've inherited financial conditioning from your parents, grandparents, and even great-grandparents. Their fears, their scarcity mindset, their limiting beliefs about wealth, it's all encoded in your subconscious, creating invisible boundaries that keep you financially at the bottom of the box, even though there's nothing actually stopping you from climbing higher. The revolutionary insight here is that you're not destined to struggle financially. You're simply programmed that way. And if you can change the programming, you can completely transform your financial destiny without necessarily working harder or doing more. This is the breakthrough that shifted my entire journey and opened the floodgates of prosperity in my life. The most powerful revelation in understanding this conditioning is recognizing that your conscious desires for wealth are being sabotaged by subconscious programming. You consciously want financial freedom, but your subconscious is rejecting it based on outdated patterns that aren't even yours to begin with. This creates an internal conflict that manifests as external financial struggle. Type breaking the pattern in the comments if you recognize some of these inherited money patterns in your own life and are ready to reprogram your financial DNA. The implications of this generational conditioning experiment are profound when we consider our relationship with money. Just like those worms, we've inherited behaviors and responses that were never consciously chosen. Think about the common phrases you might have heard growing up. Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are greedy. We're not the kind of people who can afford that. Or, you have to work hard for every penny. These weren't just casual comments. They were programming instructions being downloaded directly into your subconscious mind during your most formative years. What makes this ancestral programming so powerful is that it operates completely beneath your awareness. You don't wake up in the morning and consciously decide, today I'm going to sabotage my financial opportunities because my great-grandfather believed wealth was evil. Instead, these inherited patterns express themselves through seemingly random behaviors, procrastination on sending that invoice, discomfort when asking for a raise, inexplicable anxiety when your income exceeds a certain threshold, or that mysterious way money seems to slip through your fingers just when you start accumulating it. Shinn brilliantly identified this as your paradigm, the unconscious operating system running silently in the background of your mind. Your paradigm doesn't care about your vision boards or your conscious desires for wealth. It simply executes the programming it contains, much like a computer faithfully runs whatever software was installed on it. And unfortunately, most of us are running financial software that was coded by people who themselves struggled with money. The hidden truth that transformed my financial journey was realizing that no amount of positive thinking or hard work could override this deep programming unless I addressed it directly at its root. The paradigm always wins unless you know exactly how to reprogram it. That's why so many manifestation techniques fail. They're trying to change your conscious thoughts without addressing the subconscious programming that's actually controlling your financial reality. What's truly liberating about this discovery is understanding that your current financial situation isn't your fault. You didn't choose these limiting patterns. They were installed in you before you had any say in the matter. But while you're not responsible for this initial programming, you absolutely have the power to change it now. The worms in Pavlov's experiment couldn't reprogram themselves, but you can. That's the fundamental difference between humans and every other species on the planet. Our unique ability to observe our own programming and consciously choose to change it. The transformation journey begins with awareness. By simply recognizing these inherited patterns as they arise in your daily financial decisions, you're already beginning to loosen their grip. Each time you catch yourself thinking or saying something like, "I can't afford that," or "money is hard to come by," you're witnessing your ancestral programming in action. This awareness creates the critical space between stimulus and response, where your freedom to choose a new pattern exists. If you can recognize any of your family's money beliefs that might be limiting your own financial potential, type ancestral patterns in the comments. Acknowledging them is the first step to breaking free. Now that we understand the problem, let's explore the solution, which lies in how we reprogram the subconscious mind. This is where ancient wisdom traditions reveal a profound insight that modern psychology is only beginning to catch up with. Your subconscious mind doesn't understand or respond to words and logical arguments. It speaks an entirely different language, the language of symbols, images, and feelings. Florence Scovel Shinn understood this principle deeply. In her groundbreaking work, she explained that trying to convince your subconscious mind to attract wealth through logical reasoning is like speaking English to someone who only understands Mandarin. The message simply doesn't get through. To communicate effectively with your subconscious, you need to use the symbolic language it naturally understands. This insight completely transformed my approach to manifestation. I stopped trying to convince myself logically that I deserved wealth or that money would come to me. Instead, I began working with powerful symbols that bypassed my logical mind entirely and spoke directly to my subconscious. The revelation was immediate and profound, like finally finding the right key to a lock I'd been struggling with for years. Consider this fascinating perspective on prehistoric cave paintings. Most archaeologists interpret these ancient artworks as simply decorative or ceremonial. But a deeper analysis reveals something far more sophisticated at work. These weren't primitive art galleries. They were intentional manifestation tools. Ancient hunters would sit in these dimly lit caves, staring at paintings of successful hunts, entering a meditative state where their subconscious mind would absorb these visions of abundance and success. Then they would venture out into the wilderness, and mysteriously, their success rates would improve dramatically. They weren't just documenting past hunts, they were programming future ones. This wasn't superstition. It was an early understanding of how visualization directly impacts performance by reprogramming the subconscious mind. Modern Olympic athletes use exactly the same technique today, visualizing perfect performances to improve actual results. Shinn frequently emphasized visualization as the cornerstone of manifestation for precisely this reason. When you vividly imagine yourself already in possession of wealth, your subconscious can't distinguish between that vivid mental image and reality. It begins preparing your nervous system, your perceptual filters, and your behavioral patterns to align with that imagined reality, making it increasingly likely to materialize in your physical experience. The breakthrough insight that changed everything for me was understanding that physical objects can serve as even more powerful visualization tools than mental images alone. When you can see, touch, and interact with symbolic objects throughout your day, the impact on your subconscious programming is exponentially more powerful than a visualization practice you might do for just a few minutes each morning. This is the hidden wisdom behind lucky charms, talismans, and sacred objects across cultures throughout history. These weren't mere superstitions. They were sophisticated tools for subconscious reprogramming, designed by cultures who understood the symbolic language of the deep mind far better than our modern society typically does. Type symbolic language in the comments if you're beginning to see how communicating with your subconscious through symbols rather than words could transform your manifestation results. This understanding of how the subconscious mind operates reveals why techniques like visualization and affirmations work. For some people, but not for others. When these practices genuinely evoke emotion and engage the symbolic language of the subconscious, they can be tremendously powerful. But when they're approached as merely intellectual exercises, repeating words without feeling or visualizing without emotional engagement, they barely scratch the surface of your deep programming. The objects I'm about to share with you work through exactly the same mechanism as successful visualization and affirmations. But with one crucial advantage, they provide constant physical reminders throughout your day. They become tangible anchors for new financial programming that works in the background of your mind 24/7, not just during your morning meditation or journaling session. Let me be clear about something important. These objects aren't magical in themselves. The power isn't in the physical items. It's in how they interface with your subconscious mind. They're tools, conduits that allow you to communicate more effectively with the deeper parts of your consciousness that actually create your financial reality. Think of them as hardware that allows new software to be installed in your mental operating system. The first of these transformative objects is an old-fashioned, antique-looking key. Throughout human history and across diverse cultures, keys have universally symbolized unlocking doors, opening pathways, and accessing what was previously closed off or unavailable. There's a reason we use phrases like the key to success or unlocking your potential. These metaphors resonate deeply with our subconscious understanding of how transformation works. Florence Scovel Shinn would have immediately recognized the profound symbolic power of carrying such a key. In her groundbreaking work, she emphasized the importance of physical representations of spiritual principles. She understood that when you carry a symbol of unlocking abundance, you're constantly communicating to your subconscious mind that new doors of opportunity are opening for you, even when your conscious attention is elsewhere. When you carry a special key in your pocket, something remarkable happens in your neural pathways. Every time you feel it there, when you sit down, when you reach into your pocket for something else, when it gently presses against your leg as you walk, it sends a signal to your subconscious. I am opening new doors of opportunity. Pathways to abundance are unlocking for me. Right now. This happens dozens, even hundreds of times throughout your day, creating a consistent reprogramming effect that gradually overwrites your old scarcity conditioning. The journey toward abundance isn't just about what you consciously think or do. It's about the hidden conversations happening between different levels of your mind. When you introduce a powerful symbol, like a key, into this conversation, you're essentially giving your subconscious mind a new instruction manual for how to perceive and respond to financial opportunities in your environment. If you already have an old key somewhere in your home that could become your personal symbol of unlocking financial abundance, type "I have my key" in the comments. This simple recognition is your first step toward using this powerful tool. The symbolism of a key goes remarkably deep in our collective consciousness. In ancient Egypt, keys were so valuable, they were often buried with pharaohs to unlock doors in the afterlife. In medieval times, the symbolic presentation of a key signified the granting of authority and access to sacred or valuable spaces. Even in our digital age, we still use key imagery and logos for security companies, banks, and institutions that protect valuable assets. When you carry a key specifically as a symbol of unlocking abundance, you're tapping into this rich historical lineage of meaning. This isn't about magical thinking. It's about creating a consistent reminder that gently but persistently rewires your subconscious expectations around opportunity and access. The key becomes a physical anchor for a new story you're telling your deeper mind. Doors that were previously closed to me are now opening effortlessly. What's fascinating about this practice is how quickly it begins to manifest in your external reality. You'll start noticing opportunities that were likely always there, but were previously filtered out by your scarcity programming. A chance conversation might lead to a business connection. An article you randomly come across might contain the exact strategy you need. Someone in your network might suddenly think of you for a lucrative opportunity. These aren't coincidences. They're the natural result of your reticular activating system being reprogrammed to notice abundance rather than scarcity. Finding the right key for this practice is a deeply personal journey. This shouldn't be just any random key. It needs to carry emotional significance for you. Perhaps it's an antique key you discover at a vintage shop that immediately resonates with you. Maybe it's a key from your childhood home, representing connection to your roots and foundation. It could even be a key from the first major purchase you made, like your first car or apartment. Florence Scovel Shinn both emphasized that the emotional connection to symbolic objects dramatically amplifies their power. When an object carries personal meaning, it creates a much stronger neural pathway in your brain, forging connections between the symbol, the emotion, and the new prosperity programming you're installing. This is why mass-produced Lucky Charms rarely work. They lack the essential ingredient of personal, emotional resonance. Some of my students have shared remarkable stories about finding their prosperity keys. One woman found her grandmother's old house key in a forgotten jewelry box just days after learning this technique. A discovery that felt like a direct message from her ancestors that it was time to unlock her financial potential. Another person was drawn to a beautiful antique key at a flea market, only to discover later that it was from the same year he was born. These meaningful synchronicities aren't just coincidences. They're signs that you're aligning with the natural flow of abundance. Once you've found your key, I recommend performing a simple ritual to infuse it with your specific intention. Hold it in your hand, close your eyes, and clearly visualize the specific doors of opportunity you want to open in your life. Feel the emotions of walking through those doors into your new reality of financial freedom. This ceremony creates a powerful imprint that transforms an ordinary object into a personal tool for transformation. If you already have an idea of what key would hold special meaning for you in this practice, share "My key symbolizes Azurtu Ba'as" in the comments. Putting your intention into words strengthens the neural pathways of this new programming. The second object that transformed my financial reality is deceptively simple yet profoundly powerful: a small magnet. Now, the concept of magnetism as a metaphor for attraction runs deep in our language. We talk about magnetic personalities, being drawn to opportunities, or certain people having pull in their industries. These aren't random linguistic choices. They reflect an intuitive understanding of how energy operates in our universe. Shinn frequently used the magnet metaphor in his teachings because it perfectly illustrates how we draw circumstances, opportunities, and yes, money toward us based on our vibrational frequency. A magnet doesn't strain or struggle to attract metal. It simply exists in its natural state of magnetism, and the attraction happens automatically as a result of physical laws. What's fascinating about carrying an actual physical magnet is how it bridges the gap between metaphor and reality. Each time you feel that magnet in your pocket, your subconscious receives a powerful reminder: I am a magnet for money, I am a magnet for opportunity. I am a magnet for success. This isn't just positive thinking. It's a consistent neurological reinforcement that gradually rewires your self-concept at the deepest levels. One revelation that dramatically accelerated my journey was understanding that money itself operates on energetic principles of attraction and repulsion. Money is naturally drawn to certain energetic states: confidence, certainty, alignment, flow, and repelled by others: desperation, anxiety, unworthiness, grasping. When you carry a magnet, you're not just reminding yourself about attraction in the abstract. You're physically embodying the specific energy that naturally draws money toward you. I've witnessed remarkable transformations when people implement this practice. One of my clients, a struggling entrepreneur, began carrying a small, powerful neodymium magnet. Within weeks, he reported that potential clients were suddenly reaching out to him, rather than him having to chase them down. Another person found that after beginning this practice, she started noticing valuable opportunities that had likely been there all along, but were previously invisible to her scarcity-filtered perception. The tactile nature of this practice is what makes it so effective. Throughout your day, as you reach into your pocket for your phone or keys, your fingers will touch the magnet. In that moment, even if just for a split second, your nervous system receives a reminder about your magnetic relationship with abundance. These micro moments of reinforcement accumulate, gradually overriding your old programming around having to struggle or chase after money. What makes this particularly powerful is how it transforms abstract concepts into physical sensation. When you actually feel the pull of the magnet against other metal objects, your body experiences the principle of attraction directly. This creates a much stronger neural imprint than simply thinking about attraction in the abstract. Your subconscious mind learns through direct experience, not intellectual concepts. If you're beginning to sense how becoming a money magnet could transform your relationship with wealth, type magnetic attraction in the comments. Setting this intention publicly amplifies its resonance in your consciousness. The third object that completes this powerful trio is perhaps the most unexpected, yet it's been used across civilizations for thousands of years: a cinnamon stick. Throughout history, cinnamon has been associated with prosperity, abundance, and the removal of energetic blocks. Ancient Egyptian merchants valued it more highly than gold. In medieval Europe, only the wealthiest could afford this precious spice. In Chinese tradition, cinnamon has long been used in prosperity rituals and remedies. What makes cinnamon particularly powerful as a prosperity tool is that it engages your sense of smell, the sense most directly connected to the limbic system, the emotional center of your brain. Florence Scovel Shinn understood the profound impact of creating sensory anchors to reinforce prosperity consciousness. When you catch that warm, sweet aroma of cinnamon throughout the day, it creates an immediate neurological pathway straight to your prosperity programming, bypassing conscious resistance. The revelation that transformed my understanding was discovering that certain scents can actually dissolve energetic blocks around receiving. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how certain aromas can instantly transport you to a different emotional state? The smell of cookies baking might bring feelings of comfort and home. The scent of a particular perfume might trigger memories of a loved one. Cinnamon works the same way, but specifically for prosperity consciousness. Its unique biochemical properties actually help dissolve resistance and fear around money. When you carry a cinnamon stick in your pocket, you're creating a powerful sensory environment for transformation. Every time you catch that distinctive aroma, it serves as a subconscious reminder that you're breaking through old limitations and inviting the natural flow of prosperity into your life. This works because your sense of smell doesn't get filtered through your critical, analytical mind. It goes directly to the primitive brain centers that govern your deepest programming. To maximize the impact of these objects, I recommend establishing a simple but powerful morning ritual. Each morning, before putting these objects in your pocket, hold the key in your hand and close your eyes. Visualize doors of opportunity opening before you in vivid detail. See yourself walking through them into spaces of abundance, prosperity, and freedom. Feel the emotions of confidence and certainty as you move through these doorways. Then say aloud with conviction, I open doors of abundance. I open doors of blessings. I open doors of prosperity in my life today. Speaking these words while holding the physical key creates a powerful mind-body connection that accelerates your reprogramming. This takes less than 30 seconds, but sets a powerful template for how you'll experience opportunities throughout your day. What makes this ritual so effective is that it combines multiple modalities of communication with your subconscious. Visual, the visualization. Kinesthetic, holding the key. Auditory, speaking the affirmation. And later, olfactory, smelling the cinnamon. By engaging multiple senses, you're creating redundant pathways for this new programming, making it far more likely to override your old scarcity conditioning. If you're sensing how these simple morning practices could reshape your prosperity consciousness, type morning ritual in the comments, expressing your commitment to establishing new prosperity habits. The power of these objects extends far beyond the morning ritual. Throughout your day, you can strategically engage with them to transform potentially stressful financial moments into opportunities for deeper reprogramming. For instance, whenever you're about to do something related to money, going to the bank, entering a job interview, a business meeting, or even paying bills, take a moment to hold the cinnamon stick in your hand and take a deep breath of its aroma. As you inhale that distinctive scent, feel any resistance or fear around the financial activity literally melting away. The biochemical properties of cinnamon actually help calm your nervous system, shifting you from the stress response, which blocks prosperity, to a state of receptive flow, which attracts it. Florence taught similar pattern-interrupting techniques because he understood that our habitual stress responses around money were often the very thing blocking it from flowing to us. While holding the cinnamon stick during these financial moments, affirm to yourself, nothing and no one can stop the abundance that's flowing to me right now. This declaration, combined with the sensory experience of the cinnamon, creates a powerful pattern interrupt that breaks your usual anxiety response to money matters. After practicing this for just a few weeks, you'll likely notice a profound shift in your emotional state during financial activities that previously triggered stress. The journey of transformation continues with how you use the magnet. This object is particularly powerful when you're actively engaged in manifestation practices. Hold the magnet in your hand during visualization or when setting intentions for specific financial goals. As you hold it, experience a dual sensation. Feel yourself being magnetically pulled toward your desires while simultaneously feeling those desires being pulled toward you. This embodies what Florence Scovel Shinn described as the bilateral nature of attraction. She understood that manifestation isn't just about you pursuing what you want. It's equally about allowing what wants to come to you. The magnet perfectly symbolizes this reciprocal energy. Just as a magnet doesn't discriminate between giving and receiving magnetic energy, it simply creates a field in which attraction naturally occurs. You too can create an energy field where financial opportunities are naturally drawn into your experience. One of the most profound revelations in my personal journey was realizing that I had been approaching manifestation all wrong. I had been chasing money, pursuing opportunities, straining and striving, all actions that actually push abundance away energetically. When I began using the magnet as a reminder that attraction happens naturally when I'm in the right vibrational state, everything shifted. I stopped chasing and started attracting. I released the desperate energy of pursuit and embodied the magnetic energy of simply being an abundance attractor. A particularly powerful practice is to hold the magnet during moments when you're reflecting on gratitude for the abundance already in your life. This creates a neural association between the feeling of gratitude and the principle of magnetic attraction, amplifying your prosperity consciousness. The magnet reminds your subconscious that you don't have to chase or grasp. You can simply be in a state of grateful expectation, and abundance will be drawn to you naturally. If you're beginning to understand how these objects can transform your relationship with money from chasing to attracting, type natural attraction in the comments. Acknowledging this paradigm shift is a powerful step in your prosperity journey. To further amplify the transformative power of these three objects, I recommend storing them together in a small red cloth pouch. This might seem like a minor detail, but the hidden truth behind this recommendation goes back thousands of years across numerous cultures. The color red has long been associated with energy, vitality, power, and prosperity. In Chinese tradition, red envelopes are used for monetary gifts because the color is believed to activate and amplify financial energy. In ancient Rome, wealthy merchants often wore red garments as a symbol of their prosperity. Even today, we see red prominently featured in the logos of successful financial institutions worldwide. Florence Scovel Shinn frequently spoke about color psychology in her work on prosperity consciousness. She understood that colors aren't just aesthetic choices, they're vibrational frequencies that interact with our energetic field. Red specifically resonates at a frequency that activates and amplifies prosperity energy. When you store your three objects in a red cloth, you're essentially creating an energetic amplification chamber that continues to work even when the objects are not in your pocket. The fabric itself matters too. Natural fibers like cotton, silk, or wool maintain energetic integrity better than synthetic materials. Think of it as creating a sacred space for these powerful symbols, a dedicated vessel that honors their significance in your prosperity journey. This small pouch becomes a physical representation of the container you're creating in your consciousness for new abundance to flow into. Many of my students report that they feel a tangible difference in the energy of these objects after storing them in red cloth for even just a few days. One client described it as feeling charged. The objects seemed to carry a more noticeable energetic presence when she held them. This isn't superstition. It's simply the result of consciously working with subtle energetic principles that most people never think to utilize. Now let's talk about timing, another dimension that can dramatically amplify your results. While you can begin this practice at any time and experience positive shifts, starting during specific lunar phases can give you an energetic boost. Particularly powerful times to begin are during a new moon, which represents new beginnings and planting seeds, or a full moon, which represents culmination and bringing things to fruition. Shinn, while not specifically focused on lunar cycles in his teachings, did emphasize the importance of understanding natural rhythms and timing in manifestation work. He recognized that we live in a rhythmic universe, everything from our heartbeats to the tides to the seasons' moves, in cycles. Aligning your prosperity practices with these natural cycles puts you in harmony with the fundamental patterns of creation and dissolution that govern all of existence. The moon's influence on Earth is undeniable. It controls our ocean tides and affects countless biological processes. Many successful investors and business people throughout history have quietly used lunar timing to amplify their financial decisions. By beginning your prosperity object practice during optimal lunar phases, you're essentially surfing the natural energetic waves that are already in motion, making your efforts more effective with less resistance. The journey of transformation often hinges on these subtle refinements. The difference between moderate success and extraordinary results often lies in the details that most people overlook. By paying attention to factors like color, material, and timing, you're demonstrating to your subconscious mind and to the universe that you're serious about this process of financial renewal. If you're inspired to create your red cloth pouch during the next new or full moon, type lunar timing in the comments. Setting this intention now plants a seed for powerful transformation. Let me be crystal clear about something that's absolutely fundamental to understanding this practice. These objects don't have magical powers in themselves. You're not carrying around enchanted talismans that will mysteriously make money appear through some external force. The true power, the only power that has ever existed or will ever exist in manifestation, is within you. It's in your subconscious mind, which neuroscience has confirmed controls approximately 95% of your thoughts, decisions, and actions throughout each day. This understanding perfectly mirrors what Florence Scovel Shinn taught decades ago when she said, "The invisible passes into the visible through a human channel. You are that channel." These objects are simply tools that help you access, direct, and amplify the incredible creative power that already exists within you. They're like acupressure points for your consciousness. When activated, they help energy that was previously blocked to flow freely again. The revelation that transformed my journey was realizing that I had been looking outside myself for solutions when the real power had been within me all along. I had been searching for the perfect investment strategy, the right business opportunity, the ideal mentor, all external factors, when what I really needed was to change the internal programming that was filtering my perception of opportunities and dictating my unconscious behaviors around money. Think about the incredible implications of this truth. Your subconscious mind, the part of you that these symbolic objects communicate with, controls 95% of your financial reality. Your conscious desires, goals, and plans account for only 5% of what creates your results. This explains why so many people can consciously want wealth, work toward it diligently, and still remain stuck in scarcity. They're only engaging with 5% of the equation. When you work with these objects, you're finally addressing the other 95% where true transformation happens. I like to compare these objects to training wheels on a bicycle. When you first learned to ride a bike, you likely needed training wheels to develop your balance and confidence. They provided support while your neuromuscular system learned the subtle adjustments needed to stay upright. Once you developed that skill and balance, you no longer needed the training wheels. Riding became your natural state. These objects work in exactly the same way. In the beginning, you'll rely on them heavily as external reminders and anchors for your new prosperity programming. You'll consciously engage with them throughout the day in the rituals we've discussed. But gradually, something remarkable happens. The new programming begins to take root in your subconscious. The prosperity consciousness that the objects represent starts to become your default state rather than something you need to consciously cultivate. Many of my students report reaching a point in their journey where they realized they hadn't thought about or interacted with their prosperity objects for days, yet they were still experiencing the expanded abundance awareness and opportunities flowing into their lives. This is the ultimate sign of success, when the training wheels can come off because the new way of being has been fully integrated into your nervous system. This mirrors Florence Scovel Shinn's teaching that external tools eventually give way to internalized prosperity consciousness. The goal isn't to become dependent on objects or rituals, but to use them as bridges to a new state of being where abundance flows naturally without effort or conscious manipulation. If you're beginning to understand that these objects are simply keys to unlock your own inner power, type "the power is within" in the comments. This recognition is perhaps the most important step in your entire prosperity journey. Now, I want to address one of the most crucial aspects of working with these objects. Perhaps the most counterintuitive part of the entire practice, the importance of detachment. This might sound contradictory at first. After all, if you're using these objects to manifest specific financial outcomes, shouldn't you be intensely focused on those outcomes? Shouldn't you be visualizing them with crystal clarity and emotional intensity? The hidden wisdom that transformed my own journey, and that both Florence Scovel Shinn emphasized repeatedly, is that attachment to specific outcomes creates a vibrational state of desperation and lack that actually repels what you're trying to attract. Think about the energetic difference between these two states. Desperately needing something to happen in a specific way versus trusting that abundance is flowing to you in perfect timing, and perhaps in ways even better than you could have imagined. Desperation carries the energetic signature of absence. It's fundamentally rooted in the belief that what you want is not here, may not come, and must be grasped at frantically. Trust, on the other hand, carries the energetic signature of presence. It's rooted in the certainty that abundance is already yours and is simply making its way to you through the perfect channels at the perfect time. This revelation completely shifted my approach to these prosperity objects. I stopped carrying them with a desperate energy of, please make this specific outcome happen right now. Instead, I began carrying them with an energy of serene confidence. I am already abundant, and these objects are simply reminding me of what's already true. The paradox is that this detached approach actually accelerates manifestation because it aligns your energy with having rather than wanting. When you carry these objects with intention, but without clinging to specific results, you enter what spiritual traditions call the state of allowing. You're essentially declaring to the universe, I know what I desire, but I'm open to receiving it in ways even better than I can imagine. This openness creates energetic space for miracles and synchronicities that a rigidly attached mind would actually block. One of my clients was desperately trying to manifest a specific job promotion with a particular salary. After learning about detachment, she shifted her practice to simply attracting the perfect next step in my career with abundant compensation. Within weeks, she received an unexpected job offer from a different company, with responsibilities she enjoyed more and a compensation package 40% higher than the promotion she had been fixated on. Had she remained attached to her specific vision, she might have missed this far better opportunity. The journey of transformation often unfolds in ways our limited human minds couldn't possibly predict. By practicing detachment while using these prosperity objects, you're essentially saying, I trust in the perfect unfolding of abundance in my life. This trust is perhaps the most magnetic energy you can embody. There's one more powerful element to accelerate your results with this practice: making a public declaration of your commitment. When you publicly state exactly when you're beginning this practice with the precise date and time, you're creating what psychologists call a commitment device. You're essentially telling both your conscious and subconscious mind, this isn't just a nice idea I'm considering. This is a concrete action I'm taking, starting at this specific moment. If you're feeling the resonance of this practice and are ready to experience its transformative power in your financial reality, type starting now, followed by today's date and the current time. Making this public declaration will significantly amplify your results. This public declaration creates a powerful ripple effect in both your conscious and subconscious mind. Florence Scovel Shinn frequently used this accountability mechanism with his students because he understood that transformation requires more than private intention. It needs public commitment. When you declare your starting point to others, you create a milestone marker in your journey, a clear delineation between your old financial reality and the new one you're stepping into. Now let me share perhaps the most liberating insight of this entire journey. You are not destined to struggle financially. You're just programmed that way. Change the program, change your life. This profound truth echoes Florence Scovel Shinn's core teaching that we can literally rewrite our destiny through conscious choice. The financial limitations you've experienced aren't embedded in your DNA or written in the stars. They're simply patterns of thought and energy that were installed in your subconscious mind. The revelation that transformed countless lives, including my own, is understanding that financial struggle isn't your natural state. It's an acquired condition, like learning a language or developing a habit. And just as you can learn a new language or develop new habits, you can install new financial programming that makes prosperity your default setting rather than something you have to constantly strive for. I know that when I first began sharing this approach, many people thought it sounded unusual, even a bit strange. The idea that carrying specific objects in your pocket could transform your financial reality doesn't align with conventional financial advice about budgeting, investing, or career strategies. But as Florence Scovel Shinn often taught, breakthrough ideas frequently sound unusual at first, precisely because they operate on principles most people have never considered. Think about it. If the conventional approaches to financial abundance were truly effective, wouldn't more people be experiencing the freedom and prosperity they desire? The fact that financial struggle remains so common suggests that the mainstream advice is missing something fundamental. That missing piece is exactly what we're addressing here. the energetic and subconscious dimensions of wealth creation that operate beneath the surface of visible actions and strategies. When I first encountered these principles, I was initially skeptical, even resistant. The logical part of my mind wanted to dismiss them as too simplistic or unconventional. But I was at a point in my journey where conventional approaches had repeatedly failed me, so I decided to suspend my disbelief just long enough to experiment. That decision, to give 60 seconds of open-minded attention to concepts that initially seemed unusual, became the pivotal moment that changed everything in my financial reality. The journey of transformation often begins with a willingness to consider possibilities that exist outside our current paradigm. After all, if the solutions to your financial challenges existed within your current way of thinking, wouldn't you have found them already? Real breakthrough comes from stepping beyond the boundaries of what seems normal or reasonable based on your past conditioning. What makes this approach so powerful is that it addresses the root cause of financial struggle rather than just treating the symptoms. It works at the level of energetic and subconscious programming, the hidden source from which all your visible financial circumstances flow. If you're beginning to sense the profound truth that your financial struggles are programmed, not predetermined, type reprogramming now in the comments. Acknowledging this fundamental shift in perspective is the true beginning of your transformation. When we look closely at success stories across different cultures, backgrounds, and circumstances, we often search for the common denominators. What is that magical X factor that separates those who achieve extraordinary financial breakthroughs from those who remain stuck? Most people assume it must be elite education, powerful connections, exceptional talent, or perhaps superhuman work ethic. But what if the real common denominator was something far simpler? The man in Tokyo who went from living in his car to running a multi-million-dollar company. The woman in Brazil who transformed from being 3 months behind on rent to complete financial freedom, and the college student in Manchester who couldn't afford textbooks but now travels the world. These individuals shared neither privileged backgrounds nor exceptional advantages. What they shared was their discovery and implementation of these three-pocket objects as catalysts for energetic transformation. Florence Scovel Shinn frequently taught that the most powerful solutions are often the simplest ones, not because simplicity is easy, but because simplicity allows for consistent implementation. Complex financial strategies, elaborate vision board rituals, or advanced manifestation techniques might look impressive, but they often create barriers to consistent practice. These 3 simple objects, carried in your pocket each day, create a framework for transformation that's accessible regardless of your current financial situation, educational background, or personal circumstances. I'll be the first to admit that when I initially heard about this approach, my skepticism was off the charts. Like many of you might be feeling right now, I thought it sounded too simple, too unconventional to possibly work. I had spent years studying complex financial strategies, advanced business models, and sophisticated investment approaches. The idea that carrying 3 specific objects could outperform all of that specialized knowledge seemed, frankly, ridiculous. This transparency about my initial doubts is important because I understand exactly what might be going through your mind right now. Florence Scovel Shinn frequently employed this technique of acknowledging his own past skepticism because he understood that the most powerful transformation often begins with healthy doubt. Skepticism isn't an obstacle to this journey. It's actually the perfect starting point because it means you're thinking critically rather than blindly accepting information. My journey from skeptic to believer wasn't instantaneous. It began with a reluctant experiment. A what do I have to lose? Moment of surrender after years of financial struggle, despite doing everything right, according to conventional wisdom. I decided to try these 3 objects for 30 days, fully expecting to prove they didn't work. Instead, I experienced such dramatic shifts in both my internal state and external circumstances that I couldn't deny the impact, even with my initially skeptical mindset. The revelation that truly shifted my perspective was understanding that these objects weren't working through some mysterious external force. They were working by reprogramming my subconscious relationship with money in a way that my logical, analytical approaches never could. They bypassed my conscious resistance and spoke directly to the part of my mind that actually controls my financial behaviors, decisions, and perceptions. This shift from intellectual understanding to embodied experience is what transforms skeptics into believers. It's not about blind faith or wishful thinking. It's about being open to evidence from your own direct experience, even when that evidence challenges your preconceptions about how reality operates. If you recognize yourself as someone who's naturally skeptical but open to evidence, type open-minded skeptic in the comments. Embracing this balanced perspective is often the foundation for the most profound transformations. One of the most frustrating experiences in life is doing everything right according to conventional wisdom, yet still finding yourself trapped in financial struggle. Perhaps you've created detailed budgets, invested wisely, worked overtime, started side hustles, networked diligently, all the actions financial experts recommend. Yet abundance still feels just out of reach. This persistent gap between effort and results creates not just financial stress, but a deep sense of confusion and self-doubt. What Florence Scovel Shinn brilliantly identified decades ago was that this frustrating cycle isn't about your actions. It's about the invisible barrier created by your energetic relationship with money. She would describe this as needing to get out of your own way to allow prosperity to flow. The paradigm shift that transformed my financial reality was recognizing that I wasn't blocking abundance through what I was or wasn't doing. I was blocking it through who I was being energetically. Think about water flowing through a pipe. You can increase the pressure, work harder, all you want, but if there's a blockage in the pipe, your energy, the flow will remain restricted. The three objects we've discussed work directly on dissolving those energetic blockages that no amount of external action can address. They create an entirely new relationship with abundance at the subconscious level where these blockages originate. The transformation I've witnessed in clients who implement this approach is often dramatic. One business owner had been working 70-hour weeks for years with modest results. Within 2 months of using these three objects, she experienced a 40% increase in revenue, not from working more hours, but from suddenly attracting higher quality clients who valued her services at premium rates. The shift wasn't in her business strategy, but in her energetic relationship with receiving abundance. Let's look more closely at the science behind why this approach works so effectively. The Pavlov experiment I mentioned earlier with the worms provides fascinating insights into how deeply conditioning affects behavior. Pavlov placed worms in 2 separate boxes. In one box, worms were fed normally. In the other, worms that climbed to the upper branches were pricked with a pin, causing pain. Naturally, these worms quickly learned to stay at the bottom of the box. What's truly remarkable is what happened after 4 generations of this conditioning. Even when Pavlov stopped pricking the worms with pins, the new generations, who had never personally experienced the pain, still refused to climb to the upper branches where the freshest food was available. They were genetically programmed to stay at the bottom, even though there was no longer any actual danger above. This experiment provides compelling scientific evidence for what Florence Scovel Shinn taught through spiritual frameworks, that we inherit conditioning that limits our behaviors in ways we're not consciously aware of. The blending of scientific research with spiritual wisdom creates a powerful foundation for understanding why traditional approaches to financial improvement often fall short. They simply don't address the deep conditioning that's operating beneath conscious awareness. The worm's behavior mirrors your own relationship with financial abundance. You may be unconsciously staying at the bottom financially because of programming you inherited, not because of any real limitation in your capacity to receive wealth. The 3 objects we've discussed work directly with this programming, creating new neural pathways that allow you to climb to the upper branches where greater abundance exists. If you're recognizing how your financial struggles might be the result of inherited conditioning rather than personal limitation, Type "breaking the pattern" in the comments. Naming this insight is the first step toward liberation. This internal conflict, consciously wanting wealth while subconsciously rejecting it, is perhaps the most profound insight in understanding financial struggle. Florence Scovel Shinn brilliantly identified this as a core concept in his teaching about the paradigm that secretly runs your financial life. Your conscious mind can set goals, create vision boards, repeat affirmations, and work diligently toward wealth. But if your subconscious mind is programmed with contradictory beliefs, the subconscious will always win this battle. Think about it like this. Your conscious mind is like the captain of a ship, making decisions and giving commands. But your subconscious mind is like the massive ocean beneath, with currents, tides, and hidden depths that ultimately determine the ship's true course regardless of what the captain intends. No matter how skilled the captain is, if they're fighting against powerful underwater currents, their progress will be limited at best. The revelation that transformed my understanding was realizing that most financial improvement strategies are exclusively captain-focused. They teach you how to navigate, read maps, and steer the wheel more effectively. But they completely ignore the powerful currents beneath the surface that are actually determining your course. The three objects we've discussed work directly with those subconscious currents, gradually shifting them to flow in the same direction as your conscious intentions. This explains the frustrating experience so many people have, working harder and harder at the level of conscious action while feeling like they're getting nowhere. It's not that their actions are wrong. It's that their actions are being neutralized by contradictory subconscious programming. When you align your subconscious currents with your conscious direction, progress becomes almost effortless, like sailing with both wind and tide in your favor, rather than constantly fighting against them. Now let's address something important: the very nature of this manifestation process. Many people misunderstand manifestation as something mystical, ethereal, or somehow separate from practical reality. I prefer to frame visualization, affirmation, and symbolic work like these three objects as technology rather than mysticism. This perspective shift is similar to how Florence Scovel Shinn demystified manifestation as a learnable skill rather than magical thinking. Just as electricity was once considered mystical before we understood its principles, the technology of manifestation simply leverages natural laws of consciousness that most people haven't been taught to use effectively. These three objects are essentially hardware that interfaces with your mental operating system, allowing you to install new programming in ways that purely mental approaches cannot achieve. When you understand manifestation as technology, you remove the unnecessary barrier between practical financial strategies and spiritual abundance practices. They're not separate paths. They're complementary technologies operating at different levels of the same system. The practical strategies work with your conscious actions in the visible world, while these objects work with your subconscious programming in the invisible realm of energy and belief. If you're beginning to see how aligning your subconscious programming with your conscious goals could transform your financial reality, type "inner alignment" in the comments. This recognition is a pivotal shift in your prosperity journey. Let's explore more deeply why cinnamon specifically has such remarkable power in this prosperity practice. The historical significance of cinnamon as a prosperity symbol spans virtually every major civilization throughout human history. In ancient Egypt, cinnamon was so precious it was used in the embalming process for pharaohs, quite literally considered valuable enough for the afterlife. In medieval Europe, cinnamon was worth more by weight than silver. Venetian merchants built entire trade empires around the cinnamon roots from Asia, creating some of history's greatest fortunes. The Chinese have used cinnamon in wealth rituals for over 5,000 years, believing it activates the wealth point in the body's energy system. In Ayurvedic tradition, cinnamon is considered a powerful opener of blocked energy channels, particularly those related to receiving and abundance. Even in the Bible, cinnamon appears as one of the sacred ingredients in the holy anointing oil, symbolizing its divine significance across spiritual traditions. Florence Scovel Shinn frequently referenced this ancient wisdom in her modern teachings, understanding that these traditional practices weren't superstitious nonsense, but rather sophisticated technologies for working with subtle energies that science is only beginning to comprehend. She recognized that when an object or substance has been associated with prosperity across numerous unconnected civilizations throughout history, there's likely something fundamental about its energetic properties that transcends cultural conditioning. What's particularly fascinating about cinnamon from a biochemical perspective is how it affects your nervous system. Research has shown that simply smelling cinnamon activates parts of the brain associated with focus, motivation, and receptivity, the exact mental states most conducive to recognizing and receiving financial opportunities. This isn't mystical, it's neurological. The three objects we've discussed work at multiple levels simultaneously: symbolic, psychological, energetic, and even biochemical. This multidimensional approach is what makes them so much more effective than purely mental techniques like affirmations alone. When you engage multiple systems, conscious, subconscious, symbolic, sensory, you create redundant pathways for reprogramming that dramatically accelerate your transformation. Now I want to explore an essential principle that ties this entire practice together: the bilateral nature of attraction. Florence Scovel Shinn expressed this beautifully when she said, "What you radiate, you attract." The profound shift that transformed my financial reality was recognizing that I had been approaching manifestation all wrong. I had been chasing money rather than allowing it to flow to me. Think about the energetic difference between these two states. When you're chasing something, you're operating from a frequency of lack, the very vibration that repels what you desire. But when you embody the energy of already having received, you create a magnetic field that naturally draws abundance toward you. This isn't passive or inactive. It's a deeply powerful state of energetic alignment that creates space for prosperity to enter your experience. The three objects we've discussed help you embody this receptive state consistently throughout your day. Rather than anxiously pursuing money from a place of need, you begin radiating the energy of prosperity from a place of calm certainty. You shift from "I need to get money" to "I am naturally attracting abundance." And this subtle but profound shift changes everything. If you're beginning to understand the difference between chasing money and allowing it to flow to you, type "allowing abundance" in the comments. Acknowledging this distinction is a quantum leap in your prosperity consciousness. Now I want to explore the actual mechanics of how these objects reprogram your subconscious mind. The behind-the-scenes process that makes this practice so transformative. These objects work through two primary mechanisms. Florence Scovel Shinn brilliantly identified in his teachings on subconscious change: pattern interruption and new program installation. Pattern interruption happens when something breaks your habitual thought patterns around money. Every time you reach into your pocket and feel these objects, you're momentarily jarred out of your default financial thinking. This creates a split-second opening in your mental patterns, a tiny gap between stimulus and response where new programming can be inserted. These micro moments of interruption throughout your day gradually weaken the neural pathways of your old scarcity conditioning. Simultaneously, these objects are installing new programs through the power of repetition and emotional engagement. Each time you feel the key, magnet, or cinnamon stick, your subconscious receives another dose of prosperity programming. What makes this method uniquely effective is that it harnesses both repetition, multiple reminders throughout the day, and emotional engagement, the symbolic meaning you've invested in these objects. Florence Scovel Shinn often emphasized that changing the subconscious requires exactly this combination: consistent repetition infused with genuine emotion. The transformation journey follows a predictable pattern that I've witnessed in thousands of students. Initially, carrying these objects feels mechanical and even a bit awkward. You're consciously remembering to interact with them. This is the conscious competent stage of learning any new skill. Over time, something remarkable happens. your interaction with these objects becomes unconscious and automatic. You begin naturally reaching for the cinnamon stick before financial activities or holding the magnet during moments of manifestation without conscious thought. This is when the real magic happens, when the new programming moves from conscious practice to unconscious embodiment. What's particularly fascinating about this process is how it creates a bridge between your conscious intentions and your subconscious programming. Most people struggle with manifestation because their conscious desires and subconscious beliefs remain disconnected, like trying to drive a car with the emergency brake engaged. These objects create a physical bridge between these two aspects of your mind, gradually bringing them into alignment so they work together rather than against each other. The journey of prosperity doesn't end with your personal transformation. There's a profound ripple effect that occurs when you begin experiencing breakthroughs in your financial reality. Florence Scovel Shinn beautifully captured this in her teaching that as you give, so shall you receive. When you share this knowledge with friends or family members who are struggling financially, you're not diminishing your own abundance. You're actually amplifying it. The hidden truth behind prosperity is that it operates on principles of expansion rather than scarcity. Unlike physical resources that diminish when shared, energetic resources like knowledge, wisdom, and prosperity consciousness actually increase when you circulate them. By sharing these transformative practices with others, you're declaring to the universe that you live in a world of abundance rather than limitation, and the universe responds accordingly by bringing even more abundance into your experience. If you've found yourself mentally identifying someone in your life who could benefit from these prosperity practices, type "sharing abundance" in the comments. This intention to circulate prosperity knowledge creates a powerful energetic momentum in your own manifestation journey. As we come to the close of our time together today, I want to acknowledge something important. The fact that you've stayed with me throughout this entire exploration of prosperity consciousness isn't just meaningful to me. It suggests you're truly ready for transformation. The three objects we've discussed, the key, the magnet, and the cinnamon stick, are simple tools, but they represent a profound shift in how you relate to abundance at the deepest level of your being. If this message resonated with you, I'd love for you to be part of our prosperity community. Subscribe to this channel not just for more content, but for ongoing support in your financial transformation journey. Each week, I share practical wisdom that bridges ancient prosperity principles with modern neuroscience, exactly the kind of unique perspective that can help you break free from generational patterns of struggle. I've poured my heart into sharing these principles with you today because I truly believe everyone deserves financial freedom. If you felt that authenticity and care, consider leaving a like on this video, not for algorithms, but as an energetic exchange that signals you received value from our time together. For those who made it to this point, I'd love to know you're here. Type "My transformation begins now" in the comments. This simple declaration is already shifting your energetic relationship with prosperity. Right next to this video, you'll see another one about removing the 7 most common energetic blocks to wealth. It's the perfect companion to what we've discussed today. Click over there now and let's continue this journey together. Remember, you're not destined to struggle financially. You're just programmed that way. And that programming can be changed starting today.